things, and having to pay maybe $20, $30 to go to one of these shows. So what I'm going to do next is hopefully, if I can get past these, too bad my mouse is dead, is to show you a few things about how this whole technology works, and then we might even have some time for questions. Come on. Okay. So these are some of the kinds of things that you could present to a person, to a monkey, to a cat, depending on who you're studying, and they could do various things with them, including respond appropriately, or ask for food, or press a button or something like that. And those are the ways in which you understand that they're actually capable of putting these images together. So what we need to do is, if you were to use no devices whatsoever, is to look at a pair of those images and cross your eyes, like those two eyes that are there. Cross them slightly so that the two circles come together and become one. A few moments later, you don't even have to wait too long because your brain takes over. A few moments later, something ends up happening that tells you something important about depth perceptions, in particular, this kind of three-dimensional depth perception. I'm not going to put you through this because first, we don't have time, and second, I don't have headache pills with me because you could really strain your eyes and then have to be responsible for it. But all of this basically goes back to, as I said, being able to provide very discrete, singular inputs to each one of the eyes. As kids, I think most of us have been exposed to toys like this, right? Looking through these devices with pairs of images that are, again, discretely presented to each eye, and then we would have a sense of wonderment. How is it that something that's two-dimensional went into this thing, and now I see 3D? Again, it took about 30 years. not another 30 years, but the same 30 years to figure out. And the more sophisticated, still homemade version of it is this stereoscope made with a couple of iPhones and a bit of styrofoam over here. And essentially what it's doing is allowing each one of your eyes to see one of those images alone. Naturally speaking, you open your eyes and both of them are pointing towards an object or regard. But you have to do something to disentangle, really, the normal way in which we see from the processes that are required for depth perception. So this kind of depth perception, which is very different qualitatively and even mechanistically from all those other things that I talked about, is called stereopsis. Depth information that by definition requires a pair of inputs. Very much like the stereo in the audio world, in the sound world that we are so accustomed to. A pair of speakers allowing you to kind of get a sense of space, where things are coming from left, from right, far, near, so on and so forth. This one has to do with a pair of inputs to the eyes. And as I said, stereoscopes like this, or more sophisticated ones, which are found in all sorts of laboratories, including mine, are there to be actually used for these kinds of things. And the surprising thing is, once you learn about the use of these stereoscopes and depth perception and so on, the surprising thing is how you can do away with that setup when you go to a 3D movie. You don't carry these bulky, odd-looking things that you have to kind of hold in front of your eyes or fixate on a tripod, but you just put on a pair of glasses. And that's basically the essence of the movie industry, particularly the 3D movie industry. So it's based on providing slightly different views of the world to each eye, and uses a variety of devices to achieve this. And there's a list of maybe a dozen different technologies, again for the interest of time. I just focused on the three most relevant ones, including the one that started it all, the anaglyph, or the arrangement that you've seen probably in many different displays. The polarization systems, which you've probably used for even Avatar or IMAX 3D. And the more expensive setup, which is called the eclipse method, which is becoming more part of the high-end home theater system, 3D. And as I said, the list goes on, but for the next maybe 5 minutes or so, I'll just talk about these various technologies. And they all start from a single point. What do you think that is? How can you provide two discrete inputs to the visual system? You have to capture it like that. You have to have cameras that look like a pair of eyes. Now, this is again a homemade version of a stereo camera, or these are like basically commercial grades of the same things. This is more of a consumer end, and that's more of a industry standard for now shooting 3D footage, sports and other things. But basically you need essentially a pair of cameras that give you two discrete inputs, two slightly different views of the world. You can start from a single input, but you have to do various things to it, and the result isn't really as convincing as having stuff that is not corrected. Cameras that look like a pair of eyes. So the anaglyph technology takes us back to the 50s. That's when it actually took off. Images like this, or movies that are seen like this without glasses, are very reminiscent or hallmarks of this kind of technology. So basically what you have is, what you start with is two tinted side-by-side projections of a single image. In that case, it's a static image. It could be a frame from a movie that's taken out, but you know, if you understand the single frame, then you can apply it to many frames, and it becomes a movie. So what you see, if you were to look only at the red or only at the cyan, are two slightly different views of the same reality, same setting, same set of objects. And what happens is, then you require these cheap-looking glasses, which themselves have a pair of these colored filters, or what we call chromatically opposite filters. Red and cyan are the most common ones that are used. And what this does is it allows only a certain amount of information to pass through each filter. So the one that is red filtered allows cyan to pass through, but all the red gets blocked. And the one that's cyan filtered allows all the red to go through, and all the cyan, or whatever looks like cyan, gets filtered out. So essentially, each one of your eyes sees one of the images that is on that display, not both of them simultaneously. Right? And then, because of what we saw earlier, because of the non-correspondence and disparity and so on, it all gets put together, and you don't have to think about it anymore. You just sit back and relax. So it's used in various venues, if you will, both for static and dynamic presentation. And as I said, it's one of the oldest technologies around. Another one that started